Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the United Stand. Today we have on the infamous Fabrizio Romano. Fabrizio, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Beth. Thank you. And thank you to all my United fans. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, we're excited, especially after the Anana Here We Go. I mean, we finally got that last night, but there's still more transfer news to ask you about Manchester United. But first of all, I'll ask the question that I always ask, hoping to get new information. I'm very much doubtful, but I'll ask again. Any updates at all regarding the Manchester United takeover that you can give us?
Not yet. As always, we have to wait. I think it's very clear now to my United fans that we just have to wait. We know that things are still ongoing behind the scenes. This is the reality, but I don't want to give you false hope, or something like that. At the moment, the situation is still very silent. Also on Shaky, same side, they prefer to stay very quiet, very silent, and so it's time to wait.
Yeah, that's the answer I was thinking that we were going to get. But one of these days, I'm going to ask you, and you're going to have something else to give us. So I'm hopeful for that day coming. But let's get started on the transfers. I just want to ask you, looking at Manchester United's players that they want to get in, who do you see, or what position do you see the next signing being for Manchester United?
Striker. I think now it's time for the striker, and this is what they want to do now. So the Andre Onana deal was not easy at all, and it took some time, but it was expected because it's never easy to negotiate for that kind of player. So Man United, while they were negotiating with Inter for Andre Onana, they had some contacts with Atalanta for Rasmus Højlund, and he remains the favorite option at Manchester United in this moment. Probably the easiest option on the market, also because we know that Harry Kane has always been the biggest target, but it's almost impossible to convince Tottenham, at least at this stage. Let's see if it changes later in the window, but as of today, Man United are not negotiating with Tottenham because they understand that they don't want to sell the player in England. And so Rasmus Højlund at the moment is the big favorite. Manchester United had some contacts with Atalanta in the recent days. Still no official bids. I wanted to clarify that because from Italy we saw reports of bids from Manchester United and something like that. No, it's no time for official bids. Also because with Atalanta it would make no sense to go there and bid for 35 or 40 millions. It's better to have a direct conversation. Man United tried to propose some players into the deal. Atalanta want different kind of structure, different kind of proposal to sell Rasmus Højlund, but Man United are still there. So I think the striker is the next priority after the goalkeeper.
Yeah, there's been lots of contrasting reports regarding Højlund and the price and what the total package would be. We've seen mixed reports on the fee being 85 million by some journalists. Some people are saying it could be done for around 50 to 55 million. What do you think the total package fee will be for Højlund if Man United do end up going in and getting him?
What I'm hearing is something around 70 million euros. I think this is going to be the realistic asking price from Atalanta for Rasmus Højlund. Is the same also other clubs heard, because, for example, Paris Saint-Germain last week asked for the conditions of Rasmus Højlund deal. It's not a priority for them right now, but they are looking at center striker, and this is why they asked for the situation of Rasmus Højlund. The same happened with Italian clubs. Every club approached Atalanta, got the same answer. I think it's something around 70 million euros. This is the realistic fee for Højlund. As I mentioned, Man United tried to include players into the negotiations, players like Fred or many others, but Atalanta said we don't want any player into the deal. We want cash, we want big money, also because they already have in mind the player they want to sign to replace Rasmus Højlund in case he leaves the club. So at the moment, the idea of Atalanta is to get 70 million euros at least for Rasmus Højlund.
70 million euros, that's actually a little bit more than I was expecting, to be honest with you. But I wonder with, negotiating and stuff like that, Man United might be able to get it down. We're not usually that good at doing stuff like that. We'll have to wait and see. The next one I wanted to speak about was Harry Maguire. Obviously, Erik ten Hag has removed the captaincy from Maguire. And is that so he can leave? Do you think that is so he can leave, or do you think it's just something that Erik ten Hag's doing? Because it seems like, to me personally, it seems like something you do when you're kindly trying to say to someone, it's probably time for you to move on now.
Yeah, I think there are two reasons. The first one is the one you mentioned. So I think it's very clear. We know that Manchester United are open to letting Harry Maguire leave this summer, but it's also true that Harry Maguire wants to fight for his place at Man United. So I think after what happened yesterday, the message from the club is very clear. They hope they will find a solution together with Harry Maguire and then to move on, because this is probably the best solution for all parties involved. And then I think for Erik ten Hag, it's really crucial to have a captain who is always on the pitch, a captain who can really help the squad on every single game. So this is really important. Of course, the captain is important in the dressing room every single day, the training sessions, but it's also crucial to have a captain who is always on the pitch. And the expectation is for Harry Maguire, in case he stays at Man United, I'm not sure that he's going to play a lot of games next season. At least he will be into the rotation, but not in the starting 11. And so the idea at Manchester United and Erik ten Hag is to have a captain who is always on the pitch. This is why I'm hearing that Bruno Fernandes is the big candidate to become the new permanent captain, and this is the direction. So let's see what Erik ten Hag will communicate to the squad, but Bruno is the big candidate to become the new captain.
Yeah, I would assume it would be Bruno, especially after he took on that role a lot last year. Will Erik ten Hag announce that in due course, do you think?
This is the expectation. So these are the rumors around Bruno. Let's see if Erik ten Hag will confirm that, but this is the idea, is to go with Bruno Fernandes. And personally, I think this is a very good idea, also because what I can reveal to you is that also a few months ago, it was end of May, beginning of June, some Saudi club approached Bruno Fernandes for crazy money. And the idea of Bruno has always been the same. No way, only Man United. He wants to win at Man United. He feels that now, finally, the project of Manchester United is going to the next step. And so I think he also deserves to be a really important player on every single point of view for Man United, including the captain armband.
Yeah, he's my favourite player at United, Bruno. I absolutely love him. So, but I mean, that's really good news that Bruno does kind of want that with Man United, because I'm sure a lot of fans want that with him as well. And he does seem like the logical choice. Somebody who has dropped out of the team is Scott McTominay. We've been hearing reports that McTominay, the decision is up to him on whether he leaves or not, and that West Ham are looking at him and looking to maybe potentially bid for him. Has he been told by the club that they're okay with him leaving? And does it look like he's probably likely to leave?
No, I think it's up to the player in this case. There are cases where players are not crucial for the manager, and so they are open to letting them go, like Fred or Donny van de Beek. Man United hope to find solutions for them and then make some money with these players. For Scott McTominay is different. In case they receive a big proposal, Man United are open to letting him go, and it's also up to the player. Otherwise, Erik ten Hag is very happy with him, with how professional is the player. So he's not in a list of players who have to leave the club. They're very open with McTominay. So in case they will receive a very important proposal, they will discuss with the player. Otherwise, they would be happy to keep McTominay at the club. So I think they're not desperate to let him go. There are other players who are really out of the project in this moment and prepared to leave the club this summer.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into a few of them, definitely. One player I wanted to ask you is Martial. Is he up for sale, or do you think he's going to stay?
I think also in this case, it's really similar to Scott McTominay. We know that Erik ten Hag really appreciates Martial. The big problem is about injuries, of course, but technically, as his skills, his also personality is something really appreciated by Erik ten Hag. But again, in case they receive an important proposal, this could be a situation to watch later in the window. At the moment, I'm told it's very quiet. I was asking a few days ago, and the answer I'm getting back is that it's really quiet situation around Martial at this moment. Let's see, because maybe now I feel on the market is about the big strikers, the big clubs moving on top strikers. So it's like Kane, Højlund, Colomwani, all these kind of names. Maybe the next round of strikers later in the window will be on the second level of strikers, and so Martial could be in this domino. But at the moment, the situation is very quiet.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Martial. It's someone you always want it to work out, but it just doesn't seem like it's happening. But we'll have to wait and see. Talking about other departures, Elanga, Henderson, Fred, all departures that look very likely. Could they happen quite soon? Like, could we see any of them this week? And will any of them be going on the tour, or will they be waiting around for their deals to happen?
Yeah, and the timing always depends also on the other clubs, not just on Man United. But for example, today, Manchester United and Nottingham Forest are in contact for Dean Henderson. So I think this deal will go through. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of negotiations. So as we saw for Andre Onana is incoming, also in this case for a player leaving like Dean Henderson, it takes some time, but the conversations are very advanced between Nottingham Forest and Man United. And also the player is keen on the move because he wants to play, doesn't want to be a backup option next season. So I'm sure that they will push on this one with Nottingham Forest in the next days, and could be this week. Yes, let's see how much Forest will bid in the next round of talks, but this is a concrete possibility. For Fred, I think it's a bit slow because Fred, from what I'm told, really understands that it's time probably to move on and to try a new experience. He has 1 year left on his contract, but he wants to be an important player, and he feels that now in Man United this is going to be difficult with Mason Mount joining the club. So the idea of Fred with new agents, now he shares the same agents with Gabriel Jesus of Arsenal, now it's time for him to explore options. Galatasaray approached Manchester United last week with an official bid, but it was absolutely not enough to convince Man United to let him go. It was something close to 5-6 million euros, and Man United are not selling the player for that money. So keep an eye on Fulham, because Marco Silva is a big fan of the player, so Fulham could be an option for Fred. Let's see what's going to happen also with some Saudi club approaching the player. But I feel that Fred wants to wait a bit more because maybe some other English club could enter the race for him. So I think Fred is going to leave Man United this summer. I think he's 90% sure, but still waiting to see which club will make the best proposal to the player and to the club. And for Elanga, there are many possibilities. In January, he had like 10 proposals for a potential loan move, and it was Erik ten Hag who said no. Leipzig really wanted him in January. Now it's about Everton. It's true that Everton are pushing to sign him on permanent deal, but from what I'm hearing at the moment, there is still no agreement with the player. The player is still assessing his options. There are 3-4 clubs, and so I will keep it open. It's not only Everton. For sure, they're pushing, but also other clubs are joining the race, and I think this is positive for Man United to make some money.
Yeah, definitely, especially if we're looking at €70 million price tag on Højlund. We need to be getting the money in from somewhere. But another player, moving on to the midfield, there was talks, especially Fred, Donny van der Beek leave, even potentially McTominay, that Erik ten Hag was a big fan of Amrabat. Does that look like a deal that could be done? Also, Lavia got linked to us as well.
Yeah, for Lavia, they asked some information. It was more than 1 month ago. Then now I think on Lavia there are other clubs ahead of Manchester United in the race, including Liverpool for sure. Also Chelsea are interested in Romeo Lavia. Let's see what happens at Arsenal with Thomas Partey. In case he leaves, this could be a possibility. So for Lavia, I think it's going to be complicated. Sofyan Amrabat is a possibility. Honestly, this is not something concrete or advanced now. I saw some reports from Italy saying about Manchester United bid. No, it's not time to bid at the moment because the priority is Højlund now, the striker after Andre Onana. And with Andre Onana, Man United fans probably will have to be a bit patient before seeing him in a Manchester United shirt because it takes some time with the paperwork, the contract. So it's not going to be today and probably it's going to take some days. So I tell you before, be patient. Don't start to tweet when it's going to be official. Don't worry. Onana will play for Man United, but will take some time before we see the official statement. But for Amrabat, it's a possibility. He's a player appreciated by Erik ten Hag. They had some conversations to understand the price tag of Sofyan Amrabat, to understand the conditions of the deal. Then it's going to be crucial to sell players. I think after Onana is about the striker. After the striker, they will explore the possibilities for a new centre-back, waiting for the Maguire situation to be clarified, and for a new midfielder, defensive midfielder after Mason Mount. So this is the idea at Manchester United for this transfer window. And then I think there is also a chance for a new backup goalkeeper.
Yes, we'll move on to that. I just quickly need to ask, is there any other midfielders that Man United are looking at? Apart from Amrabat?
For sure. They have a list of players, not just one. At the moment, it's not something that advanced. So it's also not easy to mention names because we are not at the concrete stages of the negotiations. It's just about calling around, exploring options and opportunities. But at the moment, it's not something advanced. So let's see what Man United will decide to do. I think it's important to understand how much they will spend on that player, how much of budget they will have left for the second midfielder, because again, in the contacts they had for Sofyan Amrabat, they were not able yet to say, okay, we're prepared to pay 35-40 million euros. And so at the moment, yes, they had contacts, but it's not something advanced or really concrete with Fiorentina or with player side.
And then with centre-backs as well, it looks like Disasi is close to Newcastle. He was the top target for us. Is there any other names for a centre-back that we're looking at closely?
Yeah, it's not that close yet to Newcastle. I think the situation is still open. Manchester United had conversations with the agents of the player, so Disasi is open to Premier League move in general. He's really excited about that possibility, so I would keep Disasi in the list at Manchester United and Newcastle too, because Newcastle are working on that deal. So both clubs remain in conversation, and let's see this week how the conversations also on the club side with Monaco will go, because I think the most difficult part of the story is to convince Monaco and to get a good price for Axel Disasi. And then let's see, because I'm sure that Manchester United will explore the market of centre-backs in a second moment. Also in this case, it's important, really important to understand if Harry Maguire leaves, how much they will make from that deal. Because, for example, West Ham approached Manchester United in the recent days for Maguire, for a loan deal, but for Man United it makes no sense to accept a loan deal now. They will probably wait a bit, 2-3 weeks, to see if they will have some permanent deal proposal on the table, and then they will make a decision on that position. So this is why the situation is a bit slow at the moment.
Yes, I understand that. I mean, with regarding the backup goalkeeper, Suzuki is the player that we are interested in. Is that something that could happen soon?
Yeah, I think this is a concrete possibility. It's not the only name, because as always with the backup goalkeeper, you try to save some money, you try to do something smart more than spending big money. But Suzuki is really appreciated. Man United last week had concrete conversations with the agents of the player, and the player is obviously very excited about the possibility to join Manchester United. So this is a concrete name. But let's see what happens with Urawa Reds, because the season in Japan is really in crucial moments in the next months, and so this is why Urawa Reds still hope to keep the player for maybe the second part of their season. This is why there is a conversation between clubs. There will be a conversation between clubs in the next days. Let's see how it goes, but for sure Suzuki is a concrete option as backup goalkeeper at Manchester United.
Yes. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, a lot of rumours about Joao Felix potentially being on the list for Man United. Could that be a loan deal that's explored? And also, Pelestri and Ahmad, plans for their season coming up, is that to be set on tour loans? Are they going to stay?
Ahmad is going to have the pre-season with Manchester United, then he will have a conversation with Erik ten Hag, and we will see. There are really many clubs interested in Ahmad. It's true that Leicester, but there are like 6-7 clubs prepared to attack the Ahmad situation and discuss with Manchester United. So it will take some time. It's not going to be these days. I think after the pre-season tour, the situation will be clear for Ahmad. And for Joao Felix, at the moment, I'm not hearing anything advanced or concrete. I think Man United now are really focused on the new striker, and also I think Atletico Madrid want to make money with Joao Felix. I don't think a new loan is something concrete at the moment.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Well, thank you, Fabrizio. Oh, last thing, Greenwood. Any updates on Greenwood situation?
Not yet at the moment. I think we have to wait on that one too. We had rumors about Atalanta, but Atalanta never had any concrete conversation with Manchester United about that. So we have to wait and see.
Yes, thank you, Fabrizio, for coming on, and thank you for giving us some updates. I'm sure we'll see you very soon, and hopefully we don't have to wait too long for Onana, and maybe Højlund might be here soon. We'll have to wait and see, but thanks for coming on.
Ciao, thank you. See you soon.
Bye, Fabrizio. So that was Fabrizio with all the latest news. I can see you all in the chat asking me to ask about Qatar. If you would have watched from the start, you'll have seen it was the first thing I asked Fabrizio. I asked him about Qatar and the ownership straight away, and he literally said that there's not really many updates on that yet. Qatar want to keep things quiet, and we've just got to have to wait and see what happens. So there's not been anything on Qatar, and that's exactly what we asked Fabrizio. And if you watch the start of the show, you will see that on there. So yeah, everyone, that is the update on Qatar, and if you watch from the start, you'll be able to see it. So, but let's get into the main talking points that Fabrizio gave us in that interview. And the first one I want to attack straight away is 70 million euros for Højlund is the price tag. What do we all think about that, everyone in the chat? Was it Mark that was asking for the Qatar update? Mark needs to skip back and watch from the start of the show. He should be watching from the start of these things. But 70 million euros for Højlund, I think that's a lot of money. I think that's too much money. 70 million euros in pounds is probably what? Around 63 million pounds? Let me have a look. Let's actually have a look at this and see how much it is. Or someone in the chat will probably tell me before. It's 60 million pounds, nearly 61 million pounds when it comes to English money. For me, for someone that is scored 9 goals in Serie A at Atalanta, that is a little bit too much, especially considering he's only had half a season. I understand that his ceiling's high. I understand that he's a class talent. I get that. But think about when City went and got Alvarez. How much did City pay for Alvarez? What was it, 14 million pounds? We should not be paying 61 million pounds for Rasmus Højlund at where he is right now in his career. And I think that is a lot of money to do. If you can break it down in add-ons, I've just seen a chat there saying with 45 million plus 50 million add-ons, that could be a thing. If he reaches the heights that everyone thinks he's going to reach, potentially you could pay the extra money. But I just think that is absolutely ridiculous, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's way too much money. I also think if it was a club like, say if Benfica had gone in for Højlund, I don't think they'd be charging 70 million euros. I think it's because they know Man United are interested and they know Man United want him. And that is what we've had to contend with a lot. And you are always going to contend that as Manchester United. But 70 million euros for Højlund, I think is too much money. I think he's a great player. But if you look at it, you look at the grand scheme of things and you think about how much would Kane be? It talks that Bayern could potentially get Kane out of Tottenham for like 85 million. Like that extra 20 million there. Would it? I know that Kane's off the table and it's not really that much of a possibility, but it should be a possibility for us. I just think it's a little bit too much. And we've got some chats in. Snap says that club structure needs to change first. 45 mil for Rasmus plus 15 million in add-ons. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Someone says, so who would you go for then? There's a lot of options that we could go for. Obviously, Kolo Muani is on the list. I'm a fan of Muani. He's obviously got more experience than Rasmus Højlund. I don't think he's the type of striker that the fans want right now and that Erik ten Hag probably wants, because if you think about it, Muani is kind of that player that drifts in from the wings and he'd probably more be like the Roberto Firmino type striker that Liverpool had, and it works so well for them. And I think it would work with the likes of Rashford and the likes of Antony. But the fact is, we've had Martial for so long, he was similar to that. We've had strikers that do that. Man United are missing a top number 9 that's going to play down the middle. So Kolo Muani, plus his price tag is quite high as well, although we've told that could definitely be brought down. Gonzalo Ramos is another one, not a complete out-and-out number 9, but he's super young at 21. But he had so much more experience than HOJLUND, and is he a lot more proven than HOJLUND right now? Absolutely. So if you spend the money on Gonzalo Ramos, you kind of have more clarification of how that's going to work out. HOJLUND has had one very good season, but Elanga had a good season at one point under Ralph Rangnick. I know there's differences to that, and I do think HOJLUND's going to be a class player, but I think it's a lot of money to spend on a player when they've literally played one season at the top level. And guys, I always say it, Ahmad came from Atalanta, and he had to go into the under 23s, and then he had to go on 2 loan spells, and even now, I think he's ready to come in, but Ten Hag's still kind of assessing, seeing if he's ready. Playing for Atalanta in Serie A, just coming through, and then going to play up front in the Premier League for Man United is 2 completely different tasks. It's a lot of pressure to put on Rasmus Højlund, I think, if you go in and get him. So it'll be very, very, very interesting on that. 70 million euros or pounds, says Ushnish, and it is 70 million euros. So it's around 61 million pounds that Atalanta are asking for. And another one that I wanted to talk about was the fact of Harry Maguire potentially leaving. Again, it was a really good piece of information that Fabrizio gave us there, and the fact that Harry Maguire is probably going to leave Manchester United. It's the price and the fact that West Ham have offered a loan, by the way. The fact that West Ham have come in and offered a loan, it's like other clubs think we are to be taken advantage of, because that's how we portrayed ourselves in the transfer window before. To say that, to come in and actually offer a loan for Harry Maguire, it's ridiculous. It really, why would Man United do a loan deal for Maguire? Because nothing's solved. First of all, you still got him coming back at the end of next year. Second of all, you're not getting any money for him, so we're not getting anything in regards to financial fair play and reinvesting back into the window. Third of all, I'm not sure how much wages they wanted to cover, but I would be very doubtful that West Ham would want to cover the full wage. I just don't see how that would work. You've still got the links going with it. You just want it. You want to get it sold. What could happen is he could go and do, a Jesse Lingard type thing, and West Ham then want to buy him, and then you've got him sold next year. But what you want really, if there was a loan on the table, which I absolutely think we should be avoiding, the loan should be pay all of his wages in full, obligation to buy for 35 million, 40 million at the end of next year. That's the only loan that I'd be willing to accept. To do a loan for Harry Maguire would just be stupid, especially considering there will be clubs out there that will pay for him. There will be. And we want to get money in so we can reinvest into the transfer window. I think Erik Ten Hag's made it very clear, taking away the captaincy. And from what Romano said just then, guys, I think we can make it known that I think it is going to be Bruno Fernandes who is the next captain of Manchester United. I honestly can't wait for Bruno to be captain of Manchester United. He's going to be brilliant. And get in the comments down below, how much did you like that comment from Fabrizio that Saudi Arabia came in for Bruno? They offered him a huge sum of money, and he said, absolutely no way, I'm staying at Manchester United. He wants to win at Manchester United. I absolutely love that from Bruno, because he just, for me, embodies everything that a Manchester United captain should be. He's vocal. He's talks in to the media very, very well. He breaks down the game very well. He's clearly got a brilliant relationship with the manager. He sets high standards on the pitch. He leads by example. Even in it was a semi-final of the FA Cup against Brighton. You could tell he got injured very early on in that game, but he kept going till Ten Hag literally had to sub him off. He was fully injured. He was in crutches, and then he made himself available for the next game. And Ten Hag said he's playing through pain right now. He is injured, but he wants to play for the club. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. So Bruno Fernandes, for me, ticks every single box. Some people say, oh, Bruno Fernandes, he's too, he's too vocal. He's too whiny. That is what you want from your captain. You want a captain that's going to hold everyone on the pitch accountable. You want a captain that is going to argue for stuff off of the ref, because you know what? That often does. Sometimes it can sway your decision. It can get you decisions, and it has got us decisions in the past. So I absolutely love Bruno, and I think he'd be brilliant. And AK47 says, what about Anfield away? Can't forget that. Everyone was terrible Anfield away, obviously. And is Bruno perfect? No. But Gary Neville told everybody on commentary that Bruno Fernandes wanted to get subbed off when that is not what happened. So people have got a very big misconception of that game compared to what actually did happen from Bruno, because this is why you've got to get things right, when you're live on air and you're commentating something, because that went out to millions of people and it actually never happened. So it's frustrating. But there's a lot of different takes here. Colin Jeffrey, Casemiro should be captain. Love Bruno, but he can fling his hands up a bit in the air too much for me. Why is it a problem telling people to be better? Why is telling people to be better a problem? I speak with my hands. Sometimes that's just the way people speak on this. No sulkers as captain, Martinez or Casemiro, surely. I think Casemiro will be vice captain. I said we did a little Twitter space earlier on, and I said, for me, for Martinez, I think it's a little bit early. He's only been at the club, for a year. And I think he will be captain in the future. I think he totally has that capabilities, but I just think it is a little bit early. Plus, he's 24, and I know you can be captain at 24, but he's got time to grow into that role. I think with the experience you have at the club, and Bruno will be the captain, he always plays every single game. And when you look at the rest of the experience, Varane for me is injured too much to be vice captain, and then Casemiro is that player that, the end of every game, he actually argues with Bruno, and they're doing it in a constructive way. He will go and tell Bruno himself. So that's why I think Casemiro should be vice. You could argue Casemiro for captain, but I don't think he speaks English, which you really need to be able to do on the pitch when you're communicating to your other teammates. So I think Casemiro, Varane, Martinez, Luke Shaw. We've got quite a few leaders in our dressing room. Luke Shaw is an underrated one, but I think it will be Bruno that takes the captain's armband, and Fabrizio basically, he might as well have said it, really. He was hinting at it. He might as well have said it, that it's going to be Bruno Fernandes, but we'll wait and see for the announcement on that one. I think the club have told us that the announcement is going to be probably when they get to New York, or at least going to be in New York first on the preseason tour, because they want all the players together before they announce the captain. But also, we got told that McTominay, it was up to him whether he wants to leave. This, for me, is expected. I get why. I don't know if Robert McCormack's in the chat, but we speak a lot about these sort of topics, and he does like McTominay. I get why McTominay isn't directly up for sale. I can understand it. He's the only one in that squad that can play the centre defensive midfield role when Casemiro is injured or he's got a red card. I'm not saying he does it well, but he's genuinely the only person that can actually do it. We know Martinez has done it in the past, but Ten Hag clearly doesn't like that because he's put McTominay there in games where he could have put Martinez there. So he can do that. He's got height and he's got physicality. That's why I think he's still there. I do think if we got a big enough offer for him, for example, if West Ham came in and was 35, 40 million, if we got that, I'd probably say 30 million for Scott McTominay. If you got 30 million for Scott McTominay, I think we'd be like, well, we can buy Amrabat with that. Amrabat's got height. Amrabat's got aerial ability. Amrabat is a better player in that centre defensive role than McTominay. So it is an upgrade. So I think with McTominay, it's about getting the money right so we can then go invest in Amrabat. But I see Amrabat happening. I really do. And I hope for his career that Scott McTominay decides to move on, because he's not going to be a starter in this United team. He's just never will be a starter. You're not getting ahead of Casemiro. You're just not. And then when it comes to the box-to-box roles, Mount's ahead of you, Eriksen's ahead of you. So I think regarding McTominay, he should make the decision to leave for his own career, because I actually think he'd be a great player for West Ham. He's got an engine. He's got a great strike on him. He can play box-to-box. He can play that deep line role. So I think there's a career there for McTominay, just not at Man United as a first teamer anyway. Sean Oladaily says, Bruno's experience in having captained Sporting Lisbon for many times. Casemiro or Varane would be good for vice captain. Exactly. Bruno actually has been captain in the past as well, which is, he's just got that quality and that sort of ability. And Montage Singh says, what are your thoughts on the Napoli winger? I'm not going to pronounce the name because I always get it wrong, but I'm going to add it to the screen because we've had enough clips of me butchering names, but I know who you're talking about, the Napoli winger. Newcastle are looking at him. I really like him. I think he's great. I don't think United need a winger, so we're not going to go for him. United won't go for him. I think, honestly, with the rumours about Mahrez going to Saudi, I think it could be something that City might want to explore, personally. I've heard links to City for him before, and if City get him, it's a great signing. I know Newcastle are looking at him, and Newcastle are doing some great business, but I actually think City could end up going in for him last minute. Let's talk about Man United. So Disasi, not as close to Newcastle as what is being made out in the press, says Romano. So it depends which way you look at it. I'm going to be honest, I am not a massive advocate of Disasi. Do I watch the French league over and over again? No. Do I watch it much throughout a season? I'm going to be honest. No. I watch it when, they're in the Champions League and the odd game. So I don't actually know what Disasi plays like week in, week out, because I've not watched him play week in, week out. But I have people that watch these sort of games. I know people that are very kind of into European football that I really, really trust when it comes to looking at players. And I have been told that he isn't the greatest in terms of pace and his turning's quite slow. He's great on the ball, though, so it gives me Maguire vibes a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying Maguire is great on the ball, but he's decent on the ball. Disasi will be able to play out from the back perfectly fine, which is exactly what Erik ten Hag wants. He wants centre-backs that can break lines, but he's slow. I don't want someone slow. I want a centre-back that has got pace. I want us to be able to play a high line, and pace is something you can't teach. We learned our lesson going for a slow centre-back in Harry Maguire. We don't need to go for another one. I'm not saying he would be like Maguire, but I think there's other centre-backs out there that just look like they can give us so much more. I mean, there's so many other centre-backs that I'd prefer to get in over Disasi. So, to be honest, if Newcastle got him, it would not be the end of the world for me. He didn't actually give me another name, but Tabido looks good. I can't remember his name. It was a Portuguese centre-back that I really, really, really liked, but I don't think he's going to be available right now for us. But there's other centre-backs out there that I think we can get that would probably be better, if I'm being honest. Darren Mulaney says, what about Felix doing a loan to buy for another striker? Sorry, what about doing a loan to buy for another striker like Felix? I asked Fabrizio about Felix, and he seemed to think that that wasn't an option for Manchester United, and we're not going to go down that route. So Felix, again, a player that I really like and I think could be really good, but where does he actually fit in? Where does he actually fit in at Man United? I get that it's a squad game, but when you look at Man United and you look at the fact Rashford's going to be starting on the left, you're going to have the new striker down the middle, you're going to have Anthony on the right, Bruno is going to be playing, Mason Mount's going to be playing. Where does Felix fit in? Like, he's going to play if you get him. So where does he fit? I'd like to have him. I think he's a brilliant player, but I just don't think it's a priority for United right now. They're going to go and get a striker that they can permanently get in. And it looks like it's Højlund. As Mark would say, it's hotter than the sun. He's got his sauces, ketchup and barbecue. I'm joking. Mark's sauces are actually decent on this deal. I've spoke to him about it, and I think Højlund will happen. It's just a matter of time and also money. Again, it's going to be one where Antonio Silva, that was it. I've just seen it in the chat. That was the one that I really, really liked, the centre-back that I liked. But when it comes to Højlund, it's a deal that I think is going to happen. I think it's the next deal that's going to happen. What I think we need to do is probably sell Henderson in order to get the funds in. If Erik ten Hag wants his player and he trusts that he's going to be top level, I get behind it. I do think 70 million euros is a little bit much, but you've got to get behind it and back the manager. I am all for that. But guys, Andre Onana's had the here we go. I'm absolutely buzzing. Absolutely buzzing. Can't wait for that. Mason Mount's in the door. We need another striker in now. We need this striker in. And then we get Højlund in. I'm starting to look at it like this has been a decent transfer window so far. So I think that is all that we've got time for. And that is it for today's show with Romano. Again, the Qatar updates, we didn't get anything. Are you very surprised? Højlund, 70 million euros. Looks like Elanga's going to leave. Henderson could happen this week. Fred's going. So there is some outgoings waiting to happen. And also Suzuki as the new backup goalkeeper. Looks like we're going in for him. Will be interesting, by the way, to see this Suzuki. I wish I would have asked now looking back. Is Ten Hag getting him in to plan to kind of eventually move him into the number one role? Because then I look at Onana. Onana's 27. You're going to, with goalkeepers, they can go until they're 35, 36, 37. So you've got 10 years. By that time, Suzuki's 20 now. He'd be 30. But he does literally look like an Onana regen. Obviously, I've not really seen him because he plays in the Japanese league. But from what I've researched, he literally looks like a regen of Onana. So it'll be interesting to see what the plans are with that, especially as a backup goalkeeper. But everyone, Onana, here we go. It's a done deal. Next up is Rasmus Højlund. As Mark would say, it's hotter than the sun. I'm going to tell him to get them printed on T-shirts, actually, like his Frankie de Jong, Frankie Comes to Manchester ones. But we'll get that sorted for you guys. But thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you hit a like on the video, subscribe to the United Stand, and we'll see you for another update very, very shortly.